This video marks the beginning of a 3-part series on the elasticity of demand, which is one of the toughest concepts you'll learn in the economics syllabus from our point of view. So first up in this video, we look at the definition of price elasticity of demand and how it could be demonstrated in your day-to-day life. This topic deals with quite a bit of some of opportunity cost stuff you did in topic 1 in this course, so keep that in mind as we consider the elasticity of demand. So let's get into it. So guys, if you take yourselves back a bit to our demand video from this topic, we looked at how changes in the price of a good could influence the quantity demanded. You know, generally if something is more expensive, it means you buy less of it. So price elasticity is all about looking at the degree to which price can cause these changes in demand for different goods and services. So price elasticity of demand measures the responsiveness of quantity demanded to a change in price. So we say elasticity because the reaction is a bit related to what happens with an elastic band. So for example, some red elastic bands are pretty thick and tough, but some dark beige elastic bands are pretty thin and really flexy. So in the same way, demand for some goods changes a lot due to price, and others not so much. So back to elasticity of demand, we can measure this by looking at the percentage change in quantity demanded relative to the percentage change in the price. So to demonstrate this, let's think about the market for food and your weekly grocery shopping. So let's say your weekly groceries cost you around $250 a week. But what if the price was bumped up to $300 across the entire market, which represents an increase of $50 or a 20% increase? Well, the likelihood is that almost all of us who would have paid $250 will probably stump up the extra $50. And this is because good, nutritious food is a pretty good investment, and you can't go on being hungry. So the extra initial expense isn't enough to deter many consumers from buying the products in the end. And remember, this is all ceteris paribus, or in other words, assuming other factors remain that could influence demand outside of price the same. So what have we shown? Well, basically the quantity demanded didn't change that much, but the price was increased by 20%. So in this situation, the quantity demanded was relatively unresponsive to the price change. And this is called inelastic demand, as the proportionate change in quantity demanded was less than the proportionate change in price. So the opposite situation is called elastic demand. It occurs when the quantity demanded is relatively responsive to the price change. So to think about this situation, let's consider a car wash market. So imagine if the price of getting your car washed was around $15, but now it is at $20, which is an increase of $5, or alternatively, a 33.3% increase. Because getting your car washed is probably a non-essential service for most people, and you could probably wash your car yourself if you really needed to, people might decrease their demand significantly for this service. So to describe this process, we say that if the change in quantity demanded is proportionately greater than the change in price, then the good has elastic demand. So that's inelastic and elastic demand for you guys. The final situation occurs where demand is the exact middle of these two situations. So if the proportionate change in quantity demanded is the same as the proportionate change in price, or in other words, if a 1% change in price caused a 1% change in demand, then demand is said to be unit elastic. It's a pretty rare thing for something to be unit elastic, and most economists consider this situation to be pretty much impossible today. But unit elasticity can be said to be the boundary, or the dividing line, between inelastic demand and elastic demand. It represents the road, whereby inelastic demand is on one side, and elastic demand is on the other. So you may be thinking, well Dave, this is all well and good, but I doubt I'm going to sit with a pen and notepad and think about this when I go buy stuff in the future. But guys, this stuff actually applies to you more than you think. For example, consider how you would react to a price rise for an iPhone or a price fall in the cost of a coffee. Would your demand for these goods change a little or a lot? Are you more willing or less willing to purchase these goods? These are the sorts of questions we try to answer when looking at the elasticity of demand. And this is an example of the way that economics is often about trying to create concepts that can explain the reason why people spend their money and behave the way they do. So that's it, guys, and hopefully you have a pretty good understanding of what price elasticity of demand is and how it can either be elastic or inelastic, depending on what good or service we're referring to. In the next video, we move on to give a bit of background about why price elasticity of demand is so important, before talking about how we can actually calculate it. So take care, and I'll see you soon.